office.
I've got the one that was gonna take this afternoon.
I know you forgot it.
When I get that signing board there, some people down here don't know.
Oh, well, didn't get to sign in.
Oh, do they? That's great.
Someplace.
Sure. Yeah.
My favorite number. The right one. Where's
Not a big ceremony.
Thank you.
Good.
the?
Why, you little.
How you been doing?
You still working?
So is that Tom Gold hard? Is that Tom fast? On the other end, is that Tom? You guys go see it?
We did, yeah.
Oh,
Gary, did you show?
oh, very great. Yeah, I did.
No. This one goes with it.
Okay, thank you.
Did you notice
You know,
that?
these things have
Did you notice that?
I did not know.
Not that I could find it for you.
When he does the cowboy hat on, I bet he went a cowboy hat on the other night.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
I've never met him before.
Wow.
yeah. Dylan knows.
We might have to have that chair over here.
Yeah, it's a little tiny thing.
I need a bigger room and
So down there.
more people too.
What about your chair?
Yeah.
You want me to
Well,
put it
why don't
somewhere?
we just give them a special permit and then,
How's it going?
put it on your lap. Yeah, everything.
I can put on the
Winter
table,
is over with.
under the table right here where nobody walks.
Yeah, during the winter time, I keep the hair, keep on it in the winter time, in the summertime, yes, to go.
Yeah, I'm leaving.
Tell them that they
No,
can.
they're not gonna look.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else need to sign in?
Right now, the way it reads is there's no.
Not that it's not already dirty.
Yeah.
You can exercise.
What?
That's the only thing I can think of.
It's funny, I don't have a bald head from the stuff sliding over
But
my
it's
head.
blonde, it's blonde.
That is not blonde. It has been in the past.
Oh,
Hey, I saved a special seat just for you.
so I did that very first, so you're gonna have to-
Yeah, because they didn't put
How do you get on the agenda?
Should people outside did not get in here in a timely manner, then go get a chair. And stand.
Put me on the agenda. And I'm supposed to be over to Bridger. Okay, tomorrow night. Because it was
Thank you.
moved.
I'll trade to you.
I was over there,
Yes.
yeah.
Good trade.
I didn't let you know.
I don't know why I'm looking
I got over there and
You're welcome to look over my shoulder anytime.
Someone else's is on.
You know, the grass is greener on the other side. That's exactly right.
He's not gonna be here, so he gave us this report. Josh isn't gonna be able to be here. So that's a 2-month police report. Turned out for council.
Oh, he is.
Come say hello to cool kids.
You do.
how are you doing?
How are you?
Good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I didn't get one of those agendas.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I want it because my name's on
Yes, definitely.
there. All right, I can put that in my scrap.
There you go. You sign up?
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh, look, someone said.
Thank you.
I printed it, started reading.
Right.
So will you be over there tomorrow?
Oh, yeah. Where?
Post on.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No. I'm sorry.
So what?
Oh, wait.
My girlfriend.
Saying things like that.
Bill.
Good publicity.
Oh, that would be a great scandal for this county.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't know if you see that in Fromberg.
Hey, that might be his chair.
Well,
It is.
She's
You feel like Bill? You feel like Bill?
Yes. I guess I could be Bill today.
Yeah.
If he's pretty famous, everybody pays him.
Yeah, well, most people do.
Yeah.
They don't, they get in trouble.
Hey, Mom. Mom. Dorothy. She's on her mom's church, Dorothy. I heard that kind of make a weird noise. Is it still on?
I don't know, you have to ask Dad, because I don't know anything about this. Yeah, the bald head probably broke it. It's blinking.
Okay, I was blinking.
Are you in there? That was just for you, Gordy. I mean, just for you, Ollie.
I'll watch it later.
I feel sorry for you, Tammy.
He isn't boring.
No, I bet he's not.
Hi.
Yeah, up here hobnobbing with the hobnobs, huh?
Thank you. There you go.
Thanks.
Come back.
What's going? I show up late, sit in the front row.
Hello.
Nick, show up late and sit in the front row.
Yeah.
How's it going, Nate?
Are you ready?
Make it out.
I'm being recorded, okay.
No, I'm Bill.
Oh, hi, Bill. Another Bill. Hey, Bill is here.
Yeah? Much as I can see.
Well, there you are. You're right on the agenda.
I hope not, because I can't cover those.
I'm supposed to be here somewhere. There he is.
On my way here, this kid pulls out, he's going in the opposite lane of traffic. I'm going, what is this? And all of a sudden, he makes a sharp right-hand turn.
Sounds good.
I've only killed half a forest today, it's all good. Very similar to downtown Bridger. And then he cuts off into the dollar store. Should I call that?
We're still missing a few things.
Motor.
Burning down to Main Street.
Be prepared.
Engineers and extended warranty offered through General Motors for a certain time, mileage. Best thing you do is get this in, is call Chevrolet.
So it's way too quiet in here.
That's scary.
I believe,
Church in there.
I believe they have placed the original order. I'm not sure.
Of what?
No. We have to start with that, or won't we?
Is that what it says?
Bill Grill will not be here because he's actually.
We'll just leave it at that.
That would be a good excuse.
We have some,
But we have this,
Wednesday.
we have a bill, though, so.
We have Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up with those.
Yeah, Bullock, I see
Gotta
that.
go back to town criers.
Oh, is that who you are?
I like it.
Damn.
I think I saw your name somewhere.
We do go.
Along the road?
We have a lot of town
Did you
criers.
drop your name along the road now?
Supposed to have one.
currently your county commissioner for that much.
Your currently?
Yes.
Okay,
Just
all right.
to take turns.
But you're not running?
I am right.
So I probably saw it over that direction, huh?
Oh, it is up by Rockville and Slusher.
Okay. I tried to read all of those along the way. She is.
All right, Elton, come on up front here.
Alright.
Only the best get to sit in front of them.
Short lady, everything, huh?
No, you're here with me. In good company.
Where's that in? I'll have you go ahead and sign in here if you would, please. And there's one more seat right up front here.
It's a sign on the door.
Full house.
First time ever.
Living room only.
Thank you. Right up front here.
No, there's Tom. Okay.
Who was it that you said? I got a front row seat. Bob Euchre. Remember Bob Euchre? You know, he says, I got a front
That's the
row
sheriff's
seat.
report. I'm going to
He'd be way up in the.
Whatever.
This is not here tonight. Sure. Well, that's the sheriff's report, that's what I'm saying. He totally wasn't gonna be here, so. I keep them there.
She keeps them there.
Thank you.
Say, keep it, she locks the door.
They're in a safe place.
Yeah, you got blood in the crowd. It's all right, right?
You don't have to ask for a moment of silence, huh?
You don't.
Not at all.
So far. Enjoy it like it.
Okay, I am. Oh.
Excuse me. Surely it's 5 after 7. Sorry.
She's paid by the hour.
Oh, meeting too,
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My apologies. Glad to see everybody here tonight. Okay.
have any changes or to the agenda?
My motion to remove Tom Coley out since the sheriff department's not here.
Wait till number 5. Motion to move Tom Coley with the local emergency management team up to number 5. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Have a second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is passed. Thank you. Okay, Tom, Audrey, I guess you guys are up. Oh, we need, I'm sorry. Do I have a motion to consent to the agenda? Well, I don't remember today. For the motion to accept the agenda as presented, do I have a second? A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is passed. Okay. Mr. Cole?
Couple handouts here. I have a couple extra that I'll circulate through the audience as well, and I think I'll maybe take a
There you go.
So, Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for your time. Citizens of Frauenburg, my name is Tom Coley. I'm the Disaster and Emergency Services Coordinator for Carbon County. And I asked to be placed on tonight's agenda just to bring some information to you about the potential for flooding in your community. So I'll kind of start there. Right now we're sitting on a pretty high snowpack over the year. We're about 170% above normal right here in the upper Yellowstone River Basin. We've seen these type of percentages before, so we're not unfamiliar with high snowpack levels. But I just want to make you aware of the potential for flooding, bank erosion, and other potential consequences of high water in this region. The graph that's being passed around, a lot of information there. I don't intend for you to digest it all. But one of the things that it says on that top graph is that right now the National Weather Service, who does some of the water monitoring and the gauging in the Clark Fork River system, they're estimating that it's about a 70% chance that we're going to reach what they call moderate level flooding. And that's at a stage level of about 9.5 feet, which is something we've never seen before on this river system. Our highest crest, I think, historically is about 9.3, measured at your gauging station. So they're saying that there's a 70% chance that we may exceed that this year. Now, of course, these are modeled, these are forecasts, predictions, whatever you want to call them. So a lot has to do with how this water, how fast it comes off the mountain. Things that will affect that, of course, are prolonged periods of warm weather or rain events. Historically, when we see problems in our river systems is when this high peak flow is coupled with a lot of rain. That's when we typically have seen some water cause damages, such as like in 2011 and 2005. So number one, I just want to bring to your potential, this river, this season might be something you have not yet experienced. So again, I urge you to take some precautions if you live in and around the river. You know, get equipment, livestock, pets away from low-lying areas. Be prepared to move. You know, if you have, you know, put together kind of a kit, an emergency kit we call it. Make sure you have all those things in place so if you have to move from your house for an extended period of time, you're able to do so. Make, you know, contact local friends or family you may be able to stay with. So hopefully we won't see that. Another reason for my visit today, I met with the mayor and Audrey today, and we discussed some emergency preparations. Kind of went over some worst case scenarios with them, and talked about the need for sheltering of people, donation centers, volunteer reception centers, things like that nature, if and when that time period comes. So that's really just the general overview I wanted to give you. I don't want to take up too much time. Looks like you have a pretty full agenda. But I'm also here to answer any questions you may have. As I'm aware, you guys live here right along the river. You have for many years. You're familiar with the system. I just want to make sure that you're aware that this may be an exceptional year and to be prepared as best you can for it. Are there any questions from anyone? Yes, sir.
Do you have a team that you guys could deploy if something goes FEMA, an organization? Do you guys have a team to actually deploy to these areas? Is there going to be a team? I know the governor put national emergency, so is there teams located somewhere around here that, if worst case scenario happens, is there a team to actually, or is everybody on their own?
Nope, that's
And what's the number, or where do they contact, I guess, to find out about that?
okay, we'd have to escalate up to an emergency to warrant a team, but at the county level, we do not have a team in place. However, we can first off, we would draw upon our local resources. So local fire departments, through mutual aid agreements, we'd obviously get assistance from Bridger, Joliet, Red Lodge. They would come in and help with any needs we may have. If it's a emergency beyond those resources, we would probably call in the state. The state has some incident management teams which would come in and help us, manage the whole situation. Everything from sandbagging all the way up to shelters. We got American Red Cross we can rely on. There are a lot of outside resources we could draw upon if needed. In terms of, oh yes, somebody else have a question?
I did. Do you have written procedures for what happens in that situation?
We do. We have an emergency.
I just wanted you to tell us about.
Yeah, no, we have an emergency operation plan that we maintain at the county, and there is a specific section on flooding. It mainly kind of guidelines the organizational structure who would have control of the situation. I spoke with the mayor today. I said we would utilize the incident command system if and when that situation took place. The mayor would be involved, the incident commander, probably the local fire chief, Mike Bentley, would be one of the ICs in place, and then we'd lay out kind of an organized system to handle that. But the emergency plan covers a lot of those elements.
You want to speak to flood insurance?
Flood insurance. Those with flood insurance, good. But talking with, again, the mayor and Audrey, a lot of the water that seems to come into this community comes up from the ground. And just realize that, that if you have damages sustained from high groundwater levels, that is not covered by flood insurance. Okay, so just keep in mind, if you have, the water actually has to come over the surface of the water, penetrate your structure and cause damages that way. So that's just one element. We're really tight on the window. If you're interested in getting flood insurance right now, there's generally a 30-day window. You have to buy the insurance before filing a claim. So again, these graphs kind of show peak runoff right now is looking to be somewhere in that first week of June. So we still might have a little bit of a window, but are the people considering flood insurance right now? I won't talk too much about that, but how many people have flood insurance? 2? Anything else, Betsy? I mean, you probably more. I mean, it is a possibility, but it's better if done in advance, at least 30 days.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
If the water raises to what you're anticipating it could raise to, what does that entail? They generally have like so many feet back, every inch it raises or whatever.
It's difficult to say. I mean, it may very well stay well within its banks even at that level. But historically, it sounds like there's some flooding just south of town here across the barley field. It sounds like that area could be impacted with the overland flow. Audrey, you have some historical perspective. on-
Yeah, so, wait, if you look at it in zones, it's gonna be kind of everything, Third Street, and, oh, I've got a map, actually, so let me show you.
The barley field I was referring to is this one right in here.
Yeah.
So the water,
So it's kind of,
yeah.
right, and like Tom said, it's gonna be hard, because it's gonna depend on how much flows behind it, it's gonna depend on what maybe is catches in the river, or what may send it over. If you remember when Joliet flooded, it had less to do with the amount of water as to what stopped the water.
Yeah,
It can come, like, this is probably a really vulnerable point right in here,
mm-hmm,
just because of where it's at. So it can back up into here, it just has to do with the grade of where that falls. If you look at some of the maps, you can kind of see where that water's gonna run. It could potentially run this way, in effect A and second and first.
okay.
I mean, truly, honestly, and we were discussing this today, if you live on this side of the tracks, you need to be thinking about it.
Mm-hmm,
If you live in this corridor, I would be putting together a plan. You know, kind of second, like where your brother lives that way, kind of that neighborhood. I'd be putting together at least a plan. And then just, you know, there's gonna be a lot of us that are gonna be looking and monitoring this. If you see something wonky, just let somebody know. I mean, you don't need to panic, but
yeah.
just keep
No,
it.
they just sometimes.
So yeah, it's just gonna depend on amount, if there's anything in the river to stop it, and that grade and where it comes out at.
Okay.
Water takes the path of least resistance, so.
We've been meeting with some of the local landowners that are right on the riverbank, especially the cut bank over on Lovers Lane. Obviously, we saw some pretty significant bank erosion last year, 20 to 30 feet. And it could very well happen again this year. That's a concern in this community. So if you see bank erosion, significant bank erosion in other areas, please let the sheriff's office or my office know. The county we've been having a lot of conversations at our commissioners' meetings about pre-positioning some equipment if needed. If for some reason debris kind of collects on any of the bridge abutments, notifying our road crews, being prepared to close roads if necessary. Again, if you see a road closed, please don't go through it. It doesn't take much to move a person or a vehicle through a waterway. So stay off the roads if there's any water on them. Commissioner Bullock, would you like to say anything else about our preparation and?
Well, really, in that, going with what Tom's speaking of, is the declaration by basically the commission declaring a state of emergency, which identifies us as having the situation of imminent peril for the town or whoever, releasing those emergency mills for that situation, and just directing the road crew and personnel, sheriff's office, whomever, to get the evacuation process whatever in place.
So do we have a means, if something goes bad out here and it starts eroding, you know, things away fairly close to, I know the Vargases live right down there, Mike Fenneline and some of those people, and Magdalena,
Carol.
do we have, can you dump rock into it to stop it from?
Not without a permit. I was talking to Spencer's, and they had to get a permit. So I was just wondering.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Can you just go dump rock? So there are provisions to do emergency repairs. If you have threatened structures or if the head gate blows out like that. The thing you gotta remember, whatever repairs you do, you have to, one, notify the county that you're undertaking these repairs. And number two, you have to file for a permit in a time period of 30 days afterwards. And you can go in and dump rock, but be aware that you may have to take all that rock out because that rock then has to be put in an engineered fashion. You know, what I've heard in this community, and you know, a lot of the bank erosion that's occurring now is the result of what happened across the river several years before. They modified the flow. That flow now is being directed to another channel and cutting banks. So this is what we want to try to avoid. We don't want to try and change the hydrology of these river systems so that it alleviates one problem on one side but creates a new problem on the other. So that's why the permitting, that's why the engineering is required. So,
But to just confirm though, you have every right to defend your property, with the caveat that whatever you do when the crisis is over,
you're gonna have to go back and mitigate that, take it all out, whatever the case may be, when the water drops back down.
When would the county be able to come in and help with it? When the house is floating down the river, or when it's not, you know?
As terrible as it sounds, I mean, the county's responsibility, they're the county roads and county property, not individual person's property. And that's a hard pill to swallow, I get that. But that's part of living in by and with the river system. I mean, it just is.
And,
Would the state have anything?
you know, the residents along Rail Lovers Lane have met with DNRC officials, and honestly, the cost of trying to stabilize that particular bank, to be honest, it exceeds the cost of some of the homes in that area, which is, that too is a hard pill to swallow. But there are programs in place to help mitigate those situations. For example, Magdalena's property, I met with her today, and, you know, there are programs in place to remove structures from high hazard flood areas where she's at. Yes, sir.
What's any responsibility to fall for like the Army Corps of Engineers? Because we live right at the end of Third, and they came into the bank, I think in '88 or '89. They redid the whole thing. I mean, you talk about getting a permit and getting an engineer, is that something that the Army Corps of Engineers can help with? Because it was done once already.
Yeah,
Who did you talk to find out? Or why they even did it back then, instead of the
that's a
county?
good question. I don't have that historical knowledge of why they did what they did. I think it's difficult when you're just talking about private property.
Right.
Again, if you have critical infrastructure that's being threatened, such as maybe the water wells down in that vicinity,
Mhm.
I think you're gonna see a lot more assistance from the state and the federal
Okay.
government. But as Bill said, you know, private property is difficult.
Right.
Someone else have a question?
He asked my question.
Okay. Ms. Mayor, does that cover everything? Did we discuss anything
So.
further? Okay. If you have any questions later, or concerns, or just want to report some flooding that you think should be reported, feel free to call the sheriff's office. Don't call 911, but try to call their admin line, which is 1-234-446-1234. Or call the county office and just ask for my name, Tom, in emergency services, and we'll try to answer what questions you may have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Do we as a town have any kind of anything set up for?
We will have to, Mike should have a plan in